Hello and welcome to this live trading video where we present the latest strategy developed by Stein Investments. The core of this new strategy we don't even have a name for, but it's kind of a reverse strategy based on the fact that every trend comes to an end sooner or later. So today we have an amazing trend here in the US dollar and Canadian dollar, which show amazing strength against all the other currencies. And that's exactly the situation we want to have. We can't spot these dynamic trends up front because they are often false breakouts and then reverse and so on. So what we are looking for is the end of this trend when we trade in the opposite direction. So in this example at a Euro USD, we are waiting until the Euro USD found its bottom and then trade the, let's say, relaxed stage of the trend where it moves to the opposite direction. So what do we need to trade this strategy? The core and essential tool for the strategy is FX power. We use an 8-hour analysis in our example because it worked very well. And the even more essential thing is that we consider single currencies as correlated pairs. And those correlated pairs are, or correlated currencies, are the US dollar and the Canadian dollar. This is due to their economic relation being close to each other, and the same is true for the Aussie dollar and the New Zealand dollar, for example. The same is also true for the euro and the British pound, for example. And last but not least, we have these safe haven currencies, Swiss franc and Japanese yen, where this strategy works as well. So what we are looking for is what I want to explain now at the example of the US dollar and the Canadian dollar here. So we'll disable and hide all the other currencies. Then we enable the symbol list for an easier navigation, and now you see the US dollar and the Canadian dollar went in line for several hours now, showing great strength against all the other currencies. And if we just browse through all the pairs, then you see all the others have been sold against them and offered great profits for those who betted on the right side. But that's not what we are after. We tried this strategy to catch the correlated moves at their beginning, and sometimes they work and sometimes not, depending on the demand in the market. And so executing this on a pure trigger like 35 is not that easy. And so I thought, what about catching the end of this trend? It should be much easier, and it should be especially more relaxed because you have more time to trade the reverse than to spot the breakout. Just a few more examples. Canadian dollar yen moved amazing to the upside. What else do we have against the Canadian here? British pound against the Canadian dropped amazing. So, but what you can also see here is that we found some first bottom, which is currently retested here. So the price reversed at this area. The relation or balance between buyers and sellers switched. There has been a first reversal move, and now this bottom is tested a second time. And depending on how it works, it will either go further to the downside, or this will be the bottom for the reversal then to the upside. So, and how do we become aware of these correlated trends? That's what we use our custom alerts tool for. which requests the information from FX Power and then sends us alerts like this. Currency correlation alert for US dollar, Canadian. US dollar and Canadian both show a strong bullish correlation at 10:16 market time. This is the time at your price bars, and then you know exactly what to look for. And it also sends you a currency correlation exit alert saying the buy trend is fading, strength dropped below 25. That's a value we just set to become aware of when this trend starts to become weaker and when it's worth to have a closer look at the corresponding pairs. This is the chart where I loaded the custom alerts indicator, and you'll find the corresponding alert option here at the bottom of the FX Power options. It's an experimental strategy. Here you can enable the currency correlation alert. The FXP analysis period is 8 hours as seen in our chart, and the entry triggers above 35 and the exit triggers at 25, or if it reverses down below 25 or above minus 25 in terms of a sell trade. So with this tool you'll always be up to date when things become interesting, and we already received this information here. Both dropped down to below 25, and so I started recording this video to see what's going on, to present it in live circumstances. And you can also see that the US dollar and Canadian dollar is currently gaining again some strength, but the question is how long this will last. Nonetheless, we just monitor this and wait for the opportunity then to enter the market at the most perfect timing point, I'd say. And what turned out as very positive is if one of these currencies starts to move closer to the zero line, so it becomes more neutral. This is the ideal point in time where you can then check on the corresponding pairs of maybe the Canadian or the US dollar to spot for entries. So it's not right now, as you can see, both are still very strong, and so we will monitor this further and will then continue once the trade setups are present. So now the situation changed, at least for the Canadian dollar, which is now moving towards the neutral zero level. And this is the exact point in time where we start to check the Canadian dollar pairs for the reversal entries. US dollar is still very strong and may remain like that, so we ignore these pairs currently. So let's start with the euro against the Canadian dollar. Yeah, there is some dynamic to the upside, as you can see here on these 3 green candles here, colored by our breakout bars indicator. I will explain later what this is. So now we place our trades here. Next one is the British pound Canadian dollar. It is a pretty risky one because the British pound is still the weakest of all currencies, but I will place my stop. Okay, that's the maximum. Otherwise it may take too much risk here considering my risk settings. So it's currently allowed only risking 0.2% per position because I aim to open around 10 trades in total if both currencies drop to the downside. And so we reach the limit here pretty quickly. In this case it's different. Here can we easily go with this stop level for the Aussie dollar against the Canadian, and I place the profit target here where it has been moving around in the past, so it's good possible that we will reverse until this point here. Then we use the New Zealand dollar Canadian, move this down a bit, so same situation as on the Aussie dollar Canadian. Here is the next support level, so we can either use the last low or even this one as support level, but this is perfectly fine here and should be sufficient for this trade. Then we have the Canadian against the Swiss franc. We place our stop here at the last high. Profit target is here. And then we have the Canadian against the Japanese yen. And sell it with a stop loss here. And the profit target down here. So the first positions are already running. We skipped the British pound due to the risk and SL issue, and now we can just wait what happens next, and we'll wait until the US dollar may or may not fall down to the neutral area as well. Either way, I'll keep you posted. Now you can see the reason why I should have stayed out until New York opened as I initially planned, but the Canadian dollar was so promising weak at this stage that I wanted to enter this move, and yeah, in the end you see this is the New York opening and the US dollar remains so amazing strong. It reached the peak high here at 49.2. The upper limit is 50. More than 50 isn't possible. And the US dollar gained once more extreme strength and so prohibited all other currencies to rise even further. And so this one has been stopped out, but the other ones are still in the game. But as you can see, the entry now at this stage is at the same as it has been before, and I hope the US dollar will now become a bit weaker so that the recovery can finally start and we earn some good money on these trades and hopefully on the US dollar pairs as well. Right now, Euro USD made new low here, currently reaching 155% of the 5 days ATR. That's a lot, and the same is true for all the other US dollar pairs, Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar. So this strength still continues, and so it keeps the Canadian dollar alive and all others below. And so there's currently not the force we need to bring all these trades and profit, but our risk is very limited, and so I'm looking forward to see how this evolves the next hours. Until then, I'll make a pause in recording and keep you posted once things become more interesting soon. So, next update on this trading day. The US dollar is finally showing some significant weakness, and we also see this in all the US dollar related pairs like the Euro USD, which made a turnaround here, and the British Pound USD as well. The point why I don't trade them right now is upcoming news here, high impact news in about 8-9 minutes. And I will await the news here to see in which direction it moves, because high impact news, you never know, it can switch the entire market interest and the price goes upside down, and so I will avoid this risk and just enjoy the profits here on the Canadian dollar pairs. One already reached its profit target. I assume it was the Canadian Swiss franc, yeah, which hit the profit target here. Canadian dollar, Japanese yen is also fairly in profit, and the same is true for the euro against the Canadian dollar, as you can see here. So I'm pretty happy with that. We already can move the stop loss here to the last M5 low, because we have a new M5 high here, and so just to limit our losses a bit more and in best case secure more profits if the price moved even further. Last but not least, the British pound is still very weak, so it's not a good counterpart for our trades, and we can ignore this for the moment, and then we'll see how things may evolve after the high impact news have been released. That's it. Short break, and we'll continue soon. So now things become interesting for the US dollar as well, which is here clearly going to the zero line and already touched it. So we'll check Euro USD, yeah, and then we can go with a pretty tight stop because there is a dynamic move to the upside. We just give it a try to see if it works out, because I don't expect it to move again further to the downside here. Then we have British pound, US dollar. British pound is still the weakest of all. Not sure about the potential here, so let's focus on the other ones that are stronger or currently stronger than the US dollar. And these are the Asian currencies. You can go here with the US dollar against the yen and go with a stop here, aiming for a target here. Then we have New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So okay, this is a bit too tight, so I have to go with this 0.01 lot size, and the stop loss there and profit here. So still fairly good risk and reward ratio here. And the Aussie dollar against the US dollar is here. So we'll use the dynamic and we'll see if it's able to climb up to the further point where it break out to the downside. So that's it. We are currently here in profit with plenty of trades, currently 7 open positions. Just forgot US dollar, Swiss franc, also very promising with a new break to the downside, so I will take this one as well. And then I'm pretty much done. As I said, British pound is not ideal. It's coming back, maybe it's worth, yeah, okay, it's currently climbing above the last recent M5 high, so this downtrend seems to be broken, and if that's the case, I will go with the tight stop. But the point is, as you can see, we have still an issue with the 0.2, with the very tight risk we are allowed here on this trade, and then easy trade prohibits to lazy trade because the stop loss is more than we are allowed to risk in money. So I will have to go with a tighter stop if I want to trade it, and then maybe go up to the 80% here. And if I want to do so, I can still move the stop loss a bit further to the downside if I'm willing to risk more than what's initially allowed on my risk setup here in easy trade. The same is true here for British pound against the Canadian dollar. The Canadian dollar is falling quickly here, and is almost crossing the British pound, so there is some potential on this pair as well. And we just give it a try to have it complete. Give it a bit more space, and then I'm looking forward to what we can achieve until the London session ends in around 90 to 120 minutes. So that's it. Looking good so far, and I'm looking forward to see you soon. So this is just a quick intermediate update on the current situation of our trades, and we currently have 4 positions that already hit their profit target. Here there was even more possible. These are the last ones hitting their profit targets, and then we have these open trades which are currently also in profit, some more, some less. The British pound is still weak but is currently recovering. The Canadian dollar is stable weak, which is great for us, and it would help if the US dollar would go down a bit further, and then we most probably bring all these trades here in profit as well. So that said, you see there is definitely some serious potential in this strategy, and the current outcome is already positive. If we close all these trades right now, we would have a great result for today. But of course, we want to see what's maximum possible here until the end of the London session today. And so we'll keep them running and enjoy the profit stats here in the lower left corner. That's it. Quick break and see you soon. So, last update for this video, and unfortunately the US dollar didn't move in our favor. As you can see here, US dollar, Swiss franc moved in the right direction but then reversed, and this is pretty much the same across all the US dollar pairs, so it doesn't seem that we are able to win anything here. The Canadian dollar pairs, on the other hand, worked without exception perfectly fine. This one was unfortunately one that was stopped out a bit too early, and that was the risk of the New York opening here, this dynamic, and yeah, it can happen. That's part of the deal. I could have re-entered the trade here somewhere in this area, and I should have done that because the potential to reach the target was definitely there. And so one can say the US dollar didn't perform and the Canadian dollar did with this strategy today. The two risky trades with the British pound have been stopped out as well, and they killed almost all our profits here. This is a bit disappointing, but also kind of expected. I was hesitating to open these trades because the British pound has been so weak, and if you want to win in a combination of currencies, then we should have seen more dynamic here to the upside in the British pound, and that was not the case. So it's been a risky trade, as you've seen, and it didn't work out. Nonetheless, I think the potential is clear and the approach is clear, and now there are, of course, several trading opportunities in front of us where we can fine-tune the strategy in terms of entries, in terms of what we filter, and maybe in terms of profit targets or stop loss levels. Either way, I'm very excited about this strategy because these correlated currency pairs offer plenty of opportunities throughout the week, and your job is just to check if these correlated currencies like the Aussie dollar and the New Zealand dollar or the British pound and the euro moving in the right direction. And once you spot such a trend, then have a closer look at it and check when it ends, because then you can really earn some serious profit with almost no drawdown, as you've seen in this video here. So let's summarize what's needed for this strategy. At first, you need, of course, FX power, because it does all the calculations and determines the individual currency strengths, and that's these lines we need to see what's going on in the market and to time the entry of our trades. Secondly, if you like and prefer, that's how I operate, you need custom alerts, because with custom alerts you get an alert if things become interesting, and it checks for these correlated pairs. So it checks if Aussie dollar and New Zealand dollar are moving in the same direction at the same time. And it does so for all these four combinations we use. So you get an alert for US dollar and Canadian dollar, you get an alert for British pound and euro, for Swiss franc and Japanese yen. And if you check the history lines, you'll find plenty of opportunities where this strategy fits perfectly. So FX power is essential, custom alerts is optional, but both in combination are the most easiest way to handle these markets, because you know exactly where to look at and what to look at. And the beauty of this strategy is that you have plenty of time to think and plan your trades. You don't have to hope for the breakout and then see the price just reverses. We just wait for the end of the trend and then plan our trades with focus and silence, and do it hopefully better than that. Bit stupid to see this pound cut trade that's not working here, but we have plenty of great examples where this strategy worked perfectly today, and we just have to keep in mind that it doesn't work on the weakest currency in terms of a sell reversal, or against the strongest currency in terms of a buy reversal. So this is a bit of fine tuning we'll work on the next days and weeks, but this is a really easy and very relaxing strategy I seriously prefer over others, because it's stress-free and provides outstanding results. That's it. I wish you a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.